First, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. I was thinking that the first thing we should do is introduce the speakers. We have Alex from Velodrome, Ben and Hila from QiDao, and Weso here from Beefy. So if you guys could start introducing yourself, and then we can move into what our protocols do. But first, let's start with Alex, if you're there, and then we can continue with the QiDao fam, and then with Weso. Is that okay, guys?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah,
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah, I will get things rolling. My name is Alex. I'm one of the founders and member of the core team of Velodrome. And for anybody not familiar, Velodrome is the primary trading and liquidity hub on the Optimism network. I think maybe the best way to understand it on the Optimism network. I think maybe the best way to understand it in the overall sort of like landscape of AMMs is that Velodrome basically brings together some of the best mechanics from Uni v2, from Curve, and from Convex, puts them into a sort of single AMM framework, and is very much focused on growing and expanding the Optimism ecosystem, making it cheap and easy for both new and existing protocols to build deep liquidity. So I think that's the short version on me and on Velodrome.
Can we address the fact that he just called it Velodrome? Is it really Velodrome or is it Velodrome?
I think pronunciations have varied. Velodrome, potato, pick your poison.
Where did
or meets Velodrome.
Yeah, it's Velodrome for me as well. How did you guys come up with that name? Is like Avid Cyclist?
We are not, but we have a team member who was one of the founding members of VDAO, which is the DAO that originally incubated it. Yeah. And he really loved the kind of old school iconic imagery sort of associated with velodrome racing, and we thought it actually had a nice sort of play on VE mechanics. So vote escrow is crucial to this. And of course, if you just sort of look at the whole flywheel of the protocol itself, it is a nice little loop. So we were having fun a few different ways there, but I also think we just happened to stumble upon one of the better brands in the crypto space and built some cool imagery around it as well.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
I don't think we can judge him, Kila. I don't think we're known for having good naming or easy to pronounce naming.
Yeah, we have QiDao.
QiDao.
Yes.
When I was in Argentina for Isla Town, nobody would believe me that it was QiDao. They kept correcting me like, "Come on, man, we all know it's QiDao." And so yeah, that's that.
I was gonna say, when you're talking about Velodrome, the most important or one of the most intriguing aspects is the fact that like the liquidity incentive part is given to those who have the voting power instead of like centralized control by like, let's say, the whoever the developers are, which in a lot of AMMs across a lot of different networks, that's the case, right? You're like having to go and negotiate for possibly like liquidity incentives for your tokens with the developers. And at Velodrome, obviously, QiDao is taking quite a lot of advantage of it, but you're able to bribe and then work out partnerships with the actual voters themselves in order to allocate a good portion of rewards to you. So it's definitely a lot of fun and creating a really cool ecosystem of bribes and opportunities on Optimism.
Yeah, absolutely. If anybody didn't follow sort of the launch of Solidly protocol on Phantom, it was kind of Andre Crone's last hooray, his last act in DeFi. But what he described the Solidly model as, and Velodrome is an adaptation of it, is sort of a next generation AMM that basically builds on everything we've learned that works really, really well about some of the best AMM models out there. And he built it, of course, to be 100% decentralized, and that is certainly our goal as well. We have a team that supports the protocol as we sort of work towards that more fully decentralized goal. But one of the primary features of it is like, let's say compared to Curve. On Curve, protocol sort of fees are split between LPs and voters, but it's sort of like a collective pool of fees across all voters. So that can create an incentive essentially for voters to vote for unproductive pools, liquidity that isn't being highly utilized. And the change there was to basically direct fees only to the voters of the particular pools, so that all fees flow to them. And what that does is, incentivizes and rewards the most active liquidity. So basically, the pairs that are generating the highest fees, and basically creates kind of a self-optimizing machine where, as more and more fees are generated on like key ecosystem pairs, you don't need coordination. You don't need to get on a bunch of calls. You don't need to be in a bunch of Telegram DMs. You just need all the voters to look and say like, hey, my LUSD is driving a ton of fee revenue. I'm, as a voter, just looking to vote for the pool that is going to return the most value to me. So I'm going to vote for that pool. That's going to send more emissions to that pool. That's going to attract more TVL. That's going to generate more fees, and then more and more voters are going to vote for it. So like even before the bribe economy kicked off on Velodrome, and now it's really quite booming, you saw voters begin to optimize around those like USDC DAI, just because that pool was generating a ton in fees. And that's the long-term vision, is that like, there will be key ecosystem pairs on Velodrome that are always incentivized, even without needing bribes, just because they are generating fee APRs that are, even well above what you can get as a voter on Convex, or that you can get as a voter on Curve. But protocols do have the option to bribe, and of course, QiDao is doing an incredible job of that, and basically attracting, a ton of liquidity to their pairs, and that's a whole other exciting angle of Velodrome. And it's all done, of course, permissionlessly, as you described. Anyone can go in there, deposit a bribe.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, because like now we're launching on Ethereum, and we are reminded of how much politics there is when you try to do anything on any protocol there. And so it's quite nice that we can just play around on Velodrome. Like even us that we didn't have a V in NFT, we now have the most voted for stablecoin pool, MyUSD, MyUSDC, right? It's even more voted than SUSD. So that's pretty insane, and no politics had to play in there. We just came with our bribes and we got the liquidity, and so it's pretty straightforward for protocols like us.
Yeah, and I'd be curious, like, as you all are looking to incentivize your own pools on different networks, do you sort of like compare the value proposition of more like bribe for emission models versus like, the classic just direct LP incentives? And is that part of what's also driven you to working on Velodrome a bit more?
I think, we're on 20 chains and like 70 dApps. So every partnership is very, for example, on like Polygon, there's not a huge bribing ecosystem. So there is a bit different. We have a thing with QuickSwap where we take their, governance token as collateral, and we also do some incentives on their platform. And in exchange, they help out with our collateral. I mean, with our stablecoin. And there's a lot of little deals like that you can like, you provide something for us, we provide something for you. But on Optimism, like it'd be kind of dumb to just be doing straight up incentives on like other dexes, just because of the ROI that we're getting on Velodrome with the incentives. Like it's more than 2x what we're getting. So it's pretty nice. I think there's still a lot of room to do more education and more awareness on these bribes, because I think there's certainly a lot of arbitrage to be done. Like you see a lot of like, if you're a Velo holder, you probably want to vote for the thing that gives you the most money, right? And the fees are not a huge component of it yet. Right now, it's still mostly bribes, and so it's yet to be seen how we can better inform people of what bribes exist.
What Benjamin is trying to get at, Alex, is that Velodrome should have our pool right at the top. As soon as you go to the site, you're like, bribe this pool. It's got the largest bribe.
Exactly, yeah. When you go to swap, just like change that to vote for my, just right at the swap. I think that would
Yeah,
help.
I'm sure you guys will be excited to hear that one of our front end devs now has the update for the vote page that'll basically rank the pools, or have the option to rank the pools by the total bribe amount. That is very, very close to being ready to push out. So you'll be able to see that total bribe amount. And then, of course, the next key feature is integrating those sort of voting APRs, so that voters can, on that voting page, just see what the highest return pool is based on bribes and fees, and be able to then allocate their vote most efficiently. And I think that'll certainly be good for some of the big bribers like yourselves.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
and
speaking of bribes, we may need to just bribe you guys to hard code Chi at a $10 value.
yes, please. What's the bribe for that one?
I'll have to check with the
put that
team.
in.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you,
perfect.
thank you. Yeah, a lot of cool things on the bribing sphere. I just met the guys from OPP, and they also are very keen to bribe Velo holders. So some cool alpha coming there.
Awesome. I need to put some order into the Twitter space, guys. So
Sorry,
Alex
Kila is
already
pretty
told us.
crazy. We'll tell him to shut up.
I'll
Kila,
mute.
please mute yourself.
We talk a lot, Brian.
Yeah, it's cool. It's cool. But since we have followers from the three protocols here, I think it would be great if you could first QiDao, after them Hueso, explain very briefly what your protocols do, and we can move after that into what is this partnership about and how can users get the most out of it, because this is like the most important part. How does
Yeah.
that sound?
Yeah, let's do it. So
Awesome.
for those that don't know Mai or QiDao, basically what we are is a collateral-backed stablecoin. So for the user, that means you can take your favorite collaterals on your favorite chains and use them as collateral to mint stablecoins against their value. So if you don't want to sell your collateral, your assets, but you need to pay rent, do this. You can mint stablecoins. And what's cool is that it's 0% interest. We don't charge you interest for minting stablecoins. Whereas if you go to like Aave or Compound or MakerDAO and you want to get a loan, right, they can charge you a pretty penny for the stable coins you're walking away with. But for us it's 0%. And that becomes very interesting when you use collaterals like Beefy strategies that earn amazing returns, right? Because then the collateral is earning a lot of interest as you're borrowing a loan that does not have any interest. So it's technically like negative interest borrowing. So it's a pretty sweet deal for borrowers.
Cool. And there is a 0.5 repayment fee only, right?
Yeah. That's the catch, right? There's a 0.5 repayment fee if you ever choose to repay the loan whenever you pay it. So that doesn't accrue. So like if you pay it, 20 years from now, it's still going to be the same price. And that's very important if you're, for example, levering, Beefy strategies, because if you're being charged interest, then you're continually earning less, right, on your strategy. But if there's no interest accruing, then you get the whole sum of what you're levering.
Awesome. And what about Beefy, Weso? You wanna tell our
Sure.
audience?
Sure. So Beefy is essentially, I guess at this point, automation software. So all of the really cool yield farming strategies that everybody kind of talks about, whether they're as simple as just, let's say, depositing into a Velodrome gauge and then getting your earned Velo and converting it more to whatever the deposit asset is, or even more complex things like leverage lending, where you can maximize the amount of rewards you get by doing a looping strategy of supply and borrows. Beefy automates all these strategies and gives it so the user has a really easy access to doing them, and they don't really have to worry about the all of the different transactions that would go into doing the strategy themselves. And so we do that across 16 different blockchains. We think we have 640 live strategies, so 640 live vaults. And we're working on some more, I think, more creative opportunities here coming up with QiDao, Velo, Aave, a whole lot of things intertwined to do really kind of creative strategies where we can earn the most yield for our users.
Say more. There's no alpha police here. I think we can share a little bit, right?
Leaks.
Yeah, so I mean, there's actually, it was funny because I think Mark posted a strategy today, but very similar. Like, I mean, Beefy itself is already depositing on the newly released collaterals in QiDao on Aave on Optimism, and it's right now a supply only strat. But essentially, what it does is now it supplies assets into Aave, then redeems or goes ahead and grabs the OP rewards it gets, obviously plus supply interest, and then it converts that to more of whatever the deposit asset is. So when you're depositing into the new Beefy ETH, Beefy Bitcoin, and Beefy DAI vaults on my, you're depositing into those specific strategies. So they're always earning, I think ETH is up to like 7% interest right now. And then you're borrowing at 0% my. And so there's a unique opportunity here if there's enough debt ceiling. Cough.
7 minutes.
There's enough. There's a unique opportunity here in order to like deposit into QiDao, and I think ideally it'll probably be depositing also into Aave, and then borrowing let's say borrowing USDC, and then LPing on Velodrome, and then converting all of the rewards you possibly receive from doing all of this into more of whatever the deposit asset is. So whether that's ETH or Bitcoin or DAI. And so I think we're working on unique strategies like that, where you can deposit a single asset and it's more complex, and then maybe earning 3 different opportunities for yield and converting it all back into the deposited asset. So hopefully that'll come soon. That's some pretty big alpha.
Yeah, man. Thanks for sharing it. I hope you don't get in trouble back at the Beefy headquarters.
Well, as long as TBC's not listening, we should be good.
There you go. Cool.
Cool, cool.
It sounds simple, but like, guys, you're earning more than you're earning on staked ETH if you're using this Beefy strategy, and there's no issue of withdrawing your ETH as there is with staked ETH. That's pretty big. You're getting more reward for less risk. I think it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and after this Twitter space, we will share a more detailed blog on what is this partnership about and how you can get the most out of it. But probably Ben or Kila, do you want to share what could be a strategy that the users on how the users can get the most out of this partnership, and also like what does it mean? You are getting liquidity on Velodrome, you are taking collateral from Beefy, but can you elaborate a bit more on all of the parts involved?
Yeah, look, it all starts with Beefy, as most things do, where you take the assets you want to earn APR and you deposit it on Beefy. So you're a person that's already on Beefy, staking your ETH, your BTC, your DAI. But now we're offering you something to add to that, to that yield. And it's these kind of loans that you can take, minting MAI against those 3 collaterals, or any one of those, and then taking that MAI and going to Velodrome, where you're getting amazing returns on your stable coins. Like we're on what 20 something chains, so we know what the stablecoin yields are across the different chains, and I can tell you that Velodrome is giving you some of the best stablecoin yields. So you're minting this stablecoin at 0% interest against your collaterals, and then you're using that to farm a Velodrome to get even more yield. And let's not forget, if you're minting MAI against the Ethereum vault on Beefy, QiDao is paying you money in borrow incentives for minting that MAI. So the APR opportunity here is pretty crazy. The only kind of blocker, as Wes said, is the debt ceilings. Like, we don't let you mint MAI willy-nilly, because the most important thing is to keep MAI at peg, and that comes down to having enough liquidity on Velodrome. But as Kila said, in 4 minutes we're going to be doing another debt ceiling increase, and we'll keep doing them until people are bored about it. So, but I don't think they'll get bored anytime soon.
Yeah, the strategy, like I was specifically saying, kind of helps everybody, because in a sense, obviously TVL gets sent to Beefy, which then we'll get the benefit of the fees from the strategy itself. But then you get TVL then sent and MAI minted on QiDao, which is great, which then we're using along with the borrowed USDC to create LP, which is also great for QiDao, since now then they have thicker liquidity for MAI, which is deposited on Velodrome, which means that the TVL for Velodrome is increasing, and hopefully then more routed trading is through Velodrome, which increases their trading fees for their users. So I think that, like, overall, strategies like this could be like a win-win-win for like almost every protocol involved. Is this all hitting certain points that we need or we're looking for, out of the strategy? So, and then obviously the biggest beneficiary is the depositors who are just earning more of like Bitcoin or ETH.
Awesome. And so my next question is for Alex. As we can see, basically all of the protocols that are deploying on Optimism are choosing Velodrome as a liquidity partner. Why do you think this is? I think you mentioned some of the things that make Velodrome the leader here in the chain, but what do you think all of the protocols that deploy on the chain choose Velodrome to have the liquidity there?
Yeah, of course, happy to speak to that. I mean, I think first and foremost, especially in bear market times, capital efficiency is key. And what we have found is looking at the landscape of options that protocols have on Optimism to basically bootstrap liquidity. There's nothing that comes even close to Velodrome in its ability to basically say offer bribes and then receive a multiple on those emissions. And then that basically increases what you can attract. So to I guess make this a bit more tangible, for example, if you are a new protocol, you're into the Optimism ecosystem and you've got a goal of attracting, say, 1 million in TVL on your token pair. I think the primary options that you would have right now would be to go to Arrakis, which is basically a method of creating and incentivizing a Uni V3 vault. And you could deposit direct incentives on Arrakis. You could use your native token to do that. And you would basically be getting, $1 worth of TVL out of each, $1 in deposits. Or I shouldn't say it's not like you get $1 TVL, but you're going to attract the amount of TVL that $1 in your token essentially attracts. It's a 1-to-1 multiple. Likewise, if you happen to work on Curve, right? So you on mainnet have created a Curve pool, you've gotten it through voting, you've got up to receive emissions on Optimism. You could also deposit on Curve sort of 1-to-1 some sort of token like OP or your native token as an additional layer of incentives on your pair. And again, you're going to get $1 in value back in that in terms of TVL. On Velodrome, if you are bribing that pair, what we see is you actually get something closer to a 2 times to 3 times return on the value of emissions to your original bribe. And so I think any protocols that are sort of running the numbers, and I think protocols are particularly cost sensitive these days, are going to see that just, why I spend $1 and get $1 back in TVL when you can spend $1 and get $2 to $3 back. And really, that's kind of like the baseline, I think, of the strategy that protocols can employ to attract that initial liquidity. If those protocols are then, actually, I should say, before I go beyond that, we are also offering matching incentives, right? So we've worked very closely with Optimism. The whole reason they brought us over in the first place was to help them solve what has been a persistent issue in the ecosystem in attracting deep liquidity. And so every time a protocol bribes on Velodrome, we're offering about a 25% to 75% match on their bribe. So that takes it even further. And if they are bribing at least $4,000 in total bribes, we also give them a vote boost of about 2 million. So that helps to even further increase the value prop of using Velodrome over some of these other protocols. But if a protocol really wants to get engaged, if they say buy Velo off the market, lock it, there's a lock incentive right now, and you can basically get 20 to 30% of your maybe upfront investment back in OP rewards. But then you can also vote for that pool. And by virtue of voting for that pool, you will now recover a portion of your bribe, of our boosted bribe, and then you can use that to basically recycle or maybe even just cover a piece of your cost basis. So that's like another way you can do it. But if you have protocol owned liquidity, you can also deposit that and sort of farm Velo, allowing you to add additional Velo to your position and then rely less on things like bribes in the future. You can just continue to vote for your pool, earn all of the fees, all of the rides on it. And so it really is kind of overwhelming just how much of a better value prop using something like Velodrome is over the sort of old school direct LP incentives.
I have a question about that, Alex. So like if somebody were to like hypothetically stake a bunch of Velo, do they get airdrop OP tokens, or how does that work?
Yeah, basically, as of right now, as long as you lock at least 10K VE Velo, and one Velo locked for 4 years equals one VE Velo. So you buy 10,000 Velo, you lock it for 4 years, you have 10,000 VE Velo. Each epoch, essentially, there's a pool of OP that you then qualify for a proportion of. So at the end of the epoch, we look at the total amount of VE Velo locked. We take that pool, which I believe is about 75 OP, and then we airdrop that lock bonus to all of the lockers. And there's a great Dune dashboard for this that sort of tracks it in real time. But essentially, if you look at sort of Bridge over the last month or so, it has basically been around, 20 to, I think last week was even 35% of the original sort of value of the lock is returned to lockers in the form of OP. So it's kind of a crazy deal. It's basically there to help protocols, bootstrap in the Optimism ecosystem even more quickly and sort of build that Velo, which will allow them to sort of sustain liquidity for a long time.
Amazing. So, for all the protocols that are potentially buying a bunch of Velo silently, it's very good news.
I
think we have some cool announcement to make related to Beefy and this whole strategy.
Well, I mean, yes, we do, but then also I just wanted to let you guys know that the debt ceiling was raised, even though you may not see it on the site. It was raised and it was taken up within a few seconds.
300K borrowed in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. So gotta be quick.
When
we'll do another tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to not announce it, so we'll have time to borrow.
I'll just send it to Westo's DMs, and then,
Yeah. So I have a quick yes/no answer for question for Alex. Are you planning to deploy Velodrome on other chains, or you are planning to keep this model on Optimism for now?
On Optimism for now. So we've got a number of sort of additional features that we are currently building out. So just to give a few examples of that, the ability to delegate your VE NFTs to some sort of basically a vote optimizer. So if you're familiar with Vodium and Union on in the sort of Curve and Convex ecosystem, the idea being that you could take your VE NFT, delegate it to that vote optimizer. It would vote for you optimally each week, right? The pools that have the highest bribes, highest fees, and then pound the rewards of that for you into a single token like Velo or into a VE NFT position, and basically making the whole thing very, very turnkey for both users and protocols. So primarily right now, we're focused on what we see as the sort of final bits of rounding out the protocol. And then we'll certainly, look at what's next. But, we think Optimism has a ton of growth in it. I think we've already helped like 17 new protocols, tokens onboard to the ecosystem. We're still inundated, frankly, with more folks who are coming very soon. Big folks like Lido and Rocket Pool and others. And so we just need to even dig out of the hole of all the inbound interest we have right now before we can think about going anywhere else.
Yeah, Beefy will be a part of it. Beefy will be a part of that too.
I was about to ask Westo. I feel like they're working too hard. When I want stuff like that, I just ask Westo, and they make it happen. I don't know if you've seen the thing they did for Qi, because Qi has like at least 3 protocols that made like their wrappers like what you're explaining, Alex. But Beefy's just killing it, man. So I don't know. I would just ask Westo.
We have this product like done, right? And I figured I'll just go ahead and talk about it. And the one gripe I had was, when you get your Velo rewards, you can claim your missions every week, right? They go right into the locked NFT. And so my thought is two things. One is these like claimed emissions should be then given to the BVelo holders. Well, that becomes kind of hard because they're locked for 4 years. So like, how am I going to allocate these claimed emissions to the Velo holders? So either the position itself that BVelo has would just increase in size and, wouldn't be allocated to the separate BVelo holders, or essentially you have to use like incoming Velo in order to pay off these locked emissions, which I don't know, to me, just I'm not 100% sure it feels right. So it's this confusion, or this, I guess, inflection point that I'm trying to like figure out of exactly what the best method is to go live with it. But otherwise, the strategy is like essentially done and can go live. So that would basically be optimizing anybody who's holding Velo and would rather just, let's say, deposit it into Beefy. And, we would then do all of the optimization on, making sure that we're voting on the proper bribes and then converting it to more Velo for the users. So I don't know, Alex, what do you think?
Yeah, we have a joke because I think there are a lot of folks who have been trying to sort of crack this idea of an external sort of vote optimizer, but there is a lot of complexity since we've removed one of the primary mechanisms that sort of supports like the convex model, which is the boosted LPs. But we know a lot of people are working to try to figure that out.
Yeah, I think Wesso cracked the code. Just no. Oh no, that's not the clap. This is the clap. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, if you got any of it sort of specced out, then feel free to bounce it over to us. Be happy to take a look and trade ideas.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think really early on at QiDao, we always wanted like interest-bearing collaterals. We always wanted like all these things, but early on we're like, nah, we're not gonna make our own bridge. We're not gonna make our own swap, our own interest-bearing collaterals. We'll just let other people do it and just add it to our thing.
Oh, we did
This is
with it. We did with the cam token, but that was
because Beefy wasn't there before. But then Wesso came into our lives and everything got easier.
That is a good point about like running a protocol, right? I think a lot of people, especially in like Web3, for whatever reason, you get so caught up with, we have to be like everything to everybody. So we have to be a lending protocol, we have to be an optimizer, we have to be a swap, we have to be a bridge, we have to do everything. And I think what it does is it distracts you from building what your core competency is. So if your core competency is like automation strategies like Beefy's is, then why would we be distracting ourselves with lending if we can just, come up with even more creative strategies and keep expanding and keep developing on that? And so I think that's where a lot of protocols sort of like lose it a little bit, is that they start to become not an expert at anything and just moderately okay at everything. And, that's definitely not the vision I have for Beefy. I don't think that's really the vision that DAO has, but it seems similar to the viewpoints that you guys have of like, let's just be the best stablecoin, decentralized stablecoin as we possibly can, expand as far as we can, create as deep liquidity as we can, and be the best like lending protocol as we can.
Yeah, and actually, I think we have a similar viewpoint as well. In watching folks, Curve and Uni, sort of working through, and Sushi, working through what multi-chain AMM strategy really looks like. I think we're seeing firsthand the sort of struggle in trying to be sort of the premier AMM and having the premier AMM model across every single chain. There's a great deal of core functionality, for instance, on Curve, like the ability to bribe, the ability to collect fees, that as of now, you can still only do on mainnet Ethereum. And I think there will always be a role and a place for these sort of multi-chain AMM strategies, but there's also a role for a DEX whose sort of primary job is to be an ecosystem maxi DEX, that like our entire fate is tied up in the fate of Optimism. And so everything that we are doing is aligned to growing economic activity on Optimism, onboarding new protocols to Optimism. We're not shipping our fees to another chain. We're not shipping our emissions to another chain. This is all about building a really big, capable layer 2. And we just think that that is a competitive moat in certain ways and might lead to better outcomes for the ecosystem than trying to sort of split our time, attention, and be the best on every chain. But we shall see.
Yeah, being multi-chain is hard. Like it is hard enough to be a really good protocol on one chain. And to be able to maximize every opportunity on one chain, and to build your partnerships and your capabilities on one chain. And then you have to, every single chain you expand to, you spread yourself like a little bit more thin, right? And so then you have to even, like, I'd say, beef up your team, beef up the DAO contributors, because you have more and more accumulating responsibility that you have to take care of, and more protocols to be able to negotiate with and talk with, and more opportunities that you have to get liquidity for your token. And so it definitely is uniquely challenging. And I think that's why you don't see a ton of really massively cross-chain protocols. There's only some that really successfully have done it. Some have tried, but you can see that, when a lot of these protocols try that, you lose some of the maybe focus on some of the other chains. There's like a give and take that goes with each progressive chain that you go ahead and launch on.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
completely agree.
Incentives too, right? Like Uniswap and Curve will be fine, even if Optimism fails, right, as an ecosystem. So they are not incentivized to be an ecosystem sort of maxi type of protocol. They're going to give Optimism just about as much attention as they need to thrive. But if you look at like what's happened on some of the like alt L1s that have had their big boom moment and subsequently seen all the capital retreat, it's not like Curve on Phantom or Curve on AVAX is doing a lot these days, and that's probably just fine by Curve. If those ecosystems come roaring back, that's great. If they don't, no big deal. Curve's going to be wherever the latest and greatest is, and that is certainly a viable strategy, but it's not the one that we're most interested in. We're interested in really building a thriving layer 2 ecosystem and making sure that Optimism wins, because if Optimism wins, we win.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? That there is like a unique risk that happens when you're dedicated to one ecosystem, because you could go through that boom and bust cycle and then just end up, with a chain that has no activity. It's kind of, it's funny because I think a lot of the Phantom ecosystem players started to like move over.
Let's not talk about Phantom.
They moved over to Optimism, right? Like a lot of them just decided, hey, like we're going to launch our second chain over on Optimism. So I don't know. It is kind of like, you could, I guess, end up in a situation where, you're isolated to one, singular chain, and then it kind of like loses activity. And so I think at some point, some of these protocols are like sort of diversifying that risk a little bit by launching on multiple chains, but like, that's its own challenges as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next year.
Yeah, I think Wesso and I, like Beefy and QiDao we're in so many chains that we've seen a lot of like different models, right? Like the big DEX on a chain versus the multi-chain. We've all seen a bunch of multi-chain DEXs like crash terribly. Like, I'm not going to name any names because Keela's going to attack me, but there are some DEXs that try to do like multi-chain. I think the only one that's done it well is Curve, right? Because they're the best at keeping your peg, right? And Uniswap has been doing okay. But I kind of agree with Alex there that like you can't really spread your incentives thin. Like, it's either you have the best AMM and then people are willing to incentivize your AMM, or you don't have the best AMM but you have the best like business development or maybe economic model for just one chain. But I don't know, it's precarious because, as Wesley said, we've seen a lot of DEXs boom and bust on like a chain, depending on how that chain is doing, regardless of how the DEX is doing.
Correct. I think a lot of it also comes down to what Phil was saying, that oftentimes they try too much instead of just trying to make their their deck the best deck. I think that's what Curve did well. Like they kind of perfected their craft, and then when they went to different chains, it worked. A lot of the ones that you saw that we see that kind of went under, tried a little too much.
Yeah, it's the UniV2s that they put their bridge and then what does they do, Keela? They'll do the lending, they'll do the a bunch
A
of these
lot.
things.
The lottery. Yeah.
The lottery. Oh,
The
you can't
lottery.
miss the lottery. Oh, they'll try to eat Beefy sometimes. Sometimes they'll do their own auto compounding by just forking Beefy, and they just get hacked because they don't know how to fork Beefy. Those ones are fun. We've seen some of those, haven't we, Weso?
Yeah, plenty.
But no, man. I mean, I'm definitely a Velodrome maxi. I like what they're doing. Obviously, right? Because it's going very well for my on Velodrome.
Yeah. Plus the team. I mean, you guys have been so great to work with. So I think that's kind of another thing that we've seen as we're, I'm both QiDao and as a partner with so many protocols across, the different ecosystems. Some of them are way easier to work with than others. They're more responsive. They're willing to build with you. And Velodrome, ever since we even first connected, was immediately responsive and willing to work with us and answer questions and build together. So it's been great working with you guys.
Yeah, that means a lot. and certainly we feel the same way. It's kind of funny because, of course, when Andre launched Solidly, his vision was a perfect, immaculate conception, right? It was going to be a perfectly permissionless protocol. It wasn't going to need any team, wasn't going to need any marketing. Nobody was going to have to explain how it worked. All of the incentives would work just as needed to optimize the overall system. And while there were meetings that I think sort of led to the downfall of Solidly originally, I definitely think that a lack of a sort of active team was a portion of it. It is a complex sort of protocol, but it is one when you sort of properly explain and communicate it, makes a ton of sense. And so that's, of course, what we've tried to do. And we are very active on Twitter. We are very active in our DMs, in inbound and outbound outreach. And yeah, we've certainly heard how difficult it can even be sometimes, getting a chat with certain other protocols, and that's not who we want to be. You can't fully remove humans from this stuff quite yet. We may get there eventually.
Yeah, man, you should have seen how it was received when I tried to make what was it, my 3 curve gauge on curve Ethereum. Oof. Certainly I didn't understand the political circle on Ethereum, because yeah, let's just say we're not doing that LP right now on Ethereum.
Yeah, you guys just launched, right? So QiDao on Ethereum since when? Last week?
Yeah, well, the liquidity. We're going to have a balancer, and we're going to have a curve LP. 2 curve LPs, actually. One with a protocol I can't name, and then the other one is the Frax Space Pool, because that's what the curve people wanted. And yeah, lending should be live in 10 days. So that's fun. Hey, when is Weso? Weso, when are you getting on Ethereum? What's going on? Please. I'm having to talk to all these other aggregators, and I'm like, you're not Weso. You're not. What's going on here?
We're
Where are
working.
your cow memes, please?
We're
Do
working
you
on
want
that.
to reply, or we move on to the next question?
I think that was all the answer we needed for them to.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's coming, right? It's coming
Soon. Okay, so we are 54 minutes into the space. We shared some interesting alpha and the strategies behind this partnership. So I'm gonna ask the last question, not for being the last is the least important. Actually, it's quite important to everyone listening, so pay attention. And so the question is, the 3 protocols here got an Optimism grant approved. It would be great if you can share what are you planning to do with that grant and how the users can get the most out of it. I think we can start with Velodrome, which are the OGs on Optimism, and then we can move on to QiDao and Beefy.
Yeah, happy to speak to this. I know I set it up a little bit at the beginning, but basically everything that we are doing with our Optimism grant is oriented towards making it easy for new protocols, new projects to onboard to the ecosystem. The primary sort of obstacle that the Optimism team explained to us in getting protocols onboarded initially was the ability to quickly and cheaply bootstrap initial liquidity. So we've basically taken our incentives and are using them across a few different things. One is that sort of weekly lock bonus. So if you buy or farm Velo and you lock it as VE Velo, you qualify for that lock bonus each epoch. And as I said, that represents usually a 20 to 30% discount or kind of like rebate back on that initial value. So that should drop the initial investment required for those people who are betting on Optimism on Velodrome for 4 years. So that's one way we're using the incentives. The other is around bribing, right? We've talked about bribing basically returns 2 to 3 times the value in emissions as the underlying bribe. So it's really an effective way to quickly bootstrap liquidity on an ecosystem. Now, we want that to go even farther. So that's why we are matching bribes at a 25% to 75% rate of each participating protocol. So a protocol needs to put up a bribe, right, as you all have been, but by sort of matching that, we're ensuring that dollar goes even further. We're ensuring that you are able to attract the votes that send the emissions, that attract the TVL, and then bring the economic sort of activity, all the trading activity that is really crucial. The one other thing we are doing, though, is we are also ensuring that we are bribing what we are calling ecosystem public good pools. So the incentives are all there for protocols, of course, to vote for, to bribe sort of key pairs where they have an interest. But there are, of course, pairs that the entire ecosystem relies on. Things like, say, WrapD USDC or OP USDC or OP WrapD, right? Yeah. And
I
so
heard USDC. I'm allergic.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's fair. That's fair.
Wait, is that stablecoin?
It's the one that got stolen in Tornado Cash. I think that's the one he's talking about.
No, yeah, that's the one.
Sorry,
so
you know what you're getting into here.
Yeah, no worries at all. So we're just ensuring that some of those core ecosystem public good pools receive bribes and attract liquidity, because we know that underpins and supports every protocol in the ecosystem, because every protocol using OP grants right now needs deep liquidity on OP pairs. Anybody who's bridging capital into the ecosystem from other ecosystems, whether that's coming in the form of USDC, whether that's coming in the form of MAI, whether that's coming in the form of ETH, they need deep liquidity on those pairs. And so that's the other way in which we're using the grant, is basically to ensure that those pools remain bribed, so they remain deeply liquid, and that supports the entire ecosystem thriving.
Alex, I'll give you some alpha. The most cross-chain assets in crypto in general are Beefy and MAI. I don't know if you knew that. Yeah, it's actually true. Yeah, 20 plus chains for both tokens. So I don't know. I mean, maybe Beefy MAI guys. What do we think?
Yeah, I think that's
Beefy MAI. Okay.
Let's do it.
Deprecate all the other pools and just do Beefy MAI. What do you think, Wesley?
Is that the LP?
Yeah, that's the only.
You guys
LP.
know we'll match those bribes on it 75%. Would love to see it. I will say we get a lot of community demand, given bribes are going out in key for a key pool as well. So that would be the community suggestion. I might throw to y'all as well, and we'd be happy to match a bribe there as well.
An ecosystem LP. What's going on? What?
I don't think that would count as an ecosystem, but we'd love to match it 75%.
We're gonna be doing OP MAI starting this next round. So adding another one, I think should bring a lot of volume, because I think MAI just overtook OP as, like, in terms of how much liquidity there is on Velodrome. So we're like the 4th largest token now. So we want more OP. I think it's going to be good for Velodrome.
Yeah, but also Ben.
So wait, I missed it. Are you guys making Chi liquidity on OP or what?
Oh, we're not. We want to keep like a main pool on Polygon, because we don't want sparse liquidity on other chains. Personally, that's at least the plan today. We might change in the future. We might move it to Ethereum. Who knows? But right now it's not Polygon's the main.
How deep liquidity on Polygon?
It's not How much is a kilo? I mean, after all these crashes, I don't know. I don't know what the
Uh,
OP is at. I don't have the heart to look at it. Let me
and
check.
yeah, it's a couple mil. But
Yeah, I bet we could
For
we
me,
could tell you exactly how much you need to bribe on Velodrome to attract a similar level of
Yeah,
liquidity.
but
We could
the thing
move
is,
it
like,
all over.
there's this guy called Tyler, and Kila's married to him. Yeah, and he runs BD for QuickSwap. So we can't. We would ruffle some
I see.
feathers at the house.
In
Yeah,
the family. Yeah.
yeah, it's
but
internal. But don't worry,
I'm
we don't bribe
polyamorous.
anyone like we bribe you.
I'm polyamorous
everyone
as
has a
well.
price.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
what's your price, Fronto? Fronto.
I mean, you need to ask Alex. He's not me. I'm not involved.
Okay, maybe I'm asking for other things.
Okay. Anyways, how are you planning to spend your grant, Ben?
My grant, no, the QiDao's grant. We have a pretty clear charter from the Optimism community. A lot of people were surprised by how large it was. I think we're the only stable coin outside of SUSD, right, to get it so far. But we're using it for good reasons. Right now, I think what is it, Kila? 450K OP is going to go towards liquidity mining in general. Some of it is going to bribing Velo right now, and some of it is going to buying Velo, which is happening slowly because nobody wants to OTC with us. Borrowing incentives not live yet, right, Kila?
Correct. Borrowing incentives aren't live, but we've allocated quite a bit to borrowing incentives.
Right.
So you'd be minting mine and getting OP.
It's already an amazing deal to mint my, but we're trying to make it even sweeter. And then the last one is we have grant allocation, so like a sizable. I think it's more than 300K to pay people to build on top of my on Optimism. So, for example, if you're I don't know automating strategies on top of my, your name is Weso, then we have like grants for things like that. Just for example.
Yeah, and that goes for anyone that's looking to build on top of mine.
Yeah, your name doesn't have to be Weso, but if it was, it would apply.
So for the borrowing incentives, is that going to be like a votable distribution, or is that controlled by you guys? And then is that going to work similar to how the borrowing incentives are deployed now? So like it'll be like sort of like airdropped.
Yeah. So for the OP borrowing incentives, we feel like we have a charter to maximize TVL to Optimism people. So we're gonna be handling that internally to give it to the vaults that don't have enough growth, or perhaps like we have more ability to grow the debt ceiling. For example, BTC vaults, they're very limited because liquidity for BTC on Optimism is pretty crap. Whereas like Ethereum, we can keep increasing that debt ceiling all day. So Optimism,
and we do have open communication with the Optimism team about it.
You know which token will have good liquidity on Velodrome? Beefy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Beefy, baby.
I mean, if you have Beefy, then we should maybe think about Beefy.
Yeah, we need the But yeah, I'll talk to Chainlink.
Yeah. Oh man, while you're talking to him, can you ask for a Chainlink Oracle for my on Optimism? It'd be nice.
Yeah, well, I'll be a smart con. You guys are common though, right?
I think Pablo might be there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well,
there you go. We'll hammer them out together. We'll go ahead and make sure that Chainlink has the proper Optimism oracles available.
Yeah, Beefy has been nice. Hopefully one day like there is a liquid version of Velo, because then we could add it as collateral for mine. Then that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe like movie Velo. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
I'll come up with a name.
So for Beefy side of the OP incentives, 50% of our OP incentives are allocated towards incentivizing like boosts. And so actually I think we're going to kick it off, and Fran was supposed to be, I think, deciding on the first couple boosted vaults, but we really wanted to boost our ecosystem partners. So I believe it's going to be Velo USDC. Will probably be one of the first boosted vaults for the 30 days with OP rewards.
Nice.
And then we will be.
Is that trigger word again for Ben?
We'll be strategically utilizing our incentives to grow, I think, important TVL for both, or we'll see where we can grow the most TVL within the ecosystem. So obviously, one of our highest vaults right now is Mai, and I think my vaults probably are a cumulative, pretty much a big sum of our TVL that are on Optimism. So definitely we'll look to be part of the picture for our bribing and our boosting incentives. Then we have a portion of our rewards that will be used for bribing and allocated towards Beefy liquidity on Optimism. And so we've already been talking to Velodrome early on about it, but as soon as we receive those, our focus will be creating deep liquidity on Velodrome for the Beefy token, and then launching our Beefy Maxi Vault on Optimism, which will be compounding into more Beefy for everybody that wants to participate in the Beefy Vault on Optimism. And then we will have a portion set aside for developer resources, and we're looking at the best way to allocate those funds. We haven't
Just do it to Wesso. I don't know why that's complicated.
Yeah, I agree.
think
Come on, guys.
he deployed like 90% of the Optimism bots, so it would make
Man,
sense.
I hope we can redo what we did on Phantom. Would be nice. I think with Velodrome on our side, I think we have a good chance.
Yeah, the activity on Optimism is just starting, so I think there's a lot of really fun things coming soon.
Yeah, you heard it here first, guys, and there will be a lot of good stuff going through Velodrome. So you have to pull some strings, Alex. We are waiting for the OP tokens. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I think we are past the hour here on the Twitter space. We basically commented in a lot of stuff, a lot of interesting news that we shared. Yeah.
Before you, if Alex and QiDao are still around, or if they want to hang around for a second, we could take like a couple questions if people have any.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Kila has nothing to do, so you can ask him all the questions.
Kila needs to borrow some Mai and get a better setup because it's not working.
It's funny.
Wow.
He has the fanciest setup,
Shade.
but it's like I'm just on my iPhone and it's better, so it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Is
How
that funny?
expensive is your setup, Kila?
Oh man, given that we're
like,
not paid contributors to mine, it's pretty expensive.
Yeah, for real. It's probably about a $700 or $800 setup. It's like all road stuff. But yeah.
It's road or Rode? Man, after Velodrome, I don't know how anything's pronounced.
Yeah, you know how USDC is pronounced?
Yeah.
How is it pronounced?
Satan. Satanas.
Okay.
That's
so
been safe word.
Satan or USDC?
USDC.
Oh, yeah, man. I don't say that.
To everyone listening, if you have some questions for Velodrome, QiDao, or Beefy, please raise your hand. We will give you the right to speak, and you can ask us directly. Let us know. In the meantime, is there anything else you guys wanna comment or share? I think we spoke a lot, though.
I don't know, man. I'm pretty bullish Beefy. So I think everybody should buy Beefy. Not financial advice, but
Well, you would say that as one of the larger shareholders.
Hey. Let's not get into the details here. Let's just take it at face value. You see, so that's one of Kila's fancy setup features.
$800 for that?
Oh no! Oh, the savagery. Okay, sorry, Kila. That's it for you now.
So we have one. Sorry. Captain Gosu TV. Please unmute yourself. Welcome and ask your question.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for letting me to talk. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, go.
Yep.
Okay. Yes. So from my experience, I've done some staking farming on Beefy, but I heard QiDao and the Velodrome is new to me. So my question is, okay, so I'm new to this field, and then give us a Velodyne or just newbie 101. So how we start, let's say I have like a 1,000 like USDC, and then I'd like to farm. and then reap the benefit of the information that we hear today, what would be the starting points? I just want to have a plain, easy English one-on-one strategy.
I think if you're starting with USDC, your step one is to sell it for my, and then we can,
Yeah.
No.
You can just you can go to Beefy and zap right into the my USDC vault.
I think that's great. The largest or the most voted for stablecoin pool on Velodrome is my USDC. So if you're looking for a pool that you can trust is going to have rewards down the line, it's not a bad one to start with. If you want to keep the Velo, you can just farm it directly. But if you want to have more stables, Wesso has something fun for you. So.
Oh, that sounds great.
Again, what you could do is you could take that USDC, you could go to Beefy and zap that into the ETH vault, their Aave ETH vault, and then deposit that into my.finance as collateral. Take that my, and then use that my and go farm on Velo.
Okay, I think you mentioned this one in the beginning. I think that in the strategy, that's good. So do you
also have? We'll have a bunch of different strategies laid out in like nice charts throughout the week and coming up soon.
Yes.
So keep your eyes peeled for that.
Sure.
Again, none of that is financial advice,
Oh,
except
no.
for the swap USDC to my. That was financial advice from Benjamin, who
No,
has a finance
I just
background,
ask
and
you
so
to
is very
shame all the
qualified
USDC you have.
Well,
Just stare at it
he's
into
got a
its
finance
eyes and
background,
shame
so
it for being centralized. Just kind of look at it like you would an ugly duckling.
All right. So
I hope that.
Yeah, that helps. I think that's the answer. So to get more information, where to look at? Do you have should I look at Twitter, or a website, or Telegram, or Discord? Which one is the best?
Follow Beefy and Chi and Velodrome's Twitter.
Okay.
And you should join the communities. Come to Beefy's community on Discord, QiDao's community on Discord. Wherever the Velo, are you most active on Discord or Telegram? Alex, come talk to our communities.
So
that's where we get the best alpha.
Not Twitter, I guess.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, to reiterate, we will share detailed blog post explaining all of the things we mentioned here. So if you missed something or you didn't quite fully understand, we will lay everything out on an article. Okay. I don't see any other users raising their hands, so I think we can wrap up the space. It was over an hour, so thank you everyone for staying with us. I hope you have fun. I hope you laugh a little bit about Kila setup. And again, thank you for joining. And
with Kila podcast.
You know what? I think a Wesso Kila podcast would really kill it.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun. Yeah, let's do it. We could talk about all our stories.
Oh man, I don't think either HR teams at Beefy or QiDao would want you guys to be sharing all of the stories. Yeah.
Only the ones about Benjamin.
Oh no!
Oh, yeah.
Wait, are you guys going to DEF CON?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Yeah, come to DEF CON.
I guess I'll ask you this
Use your
later,
OP
maybe
friend.
not on a Twitter space.
Use your OP
No, I just
friend.
don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
He's not meant for that.
All right.
Anyways, thank you guys. Thank you for Kila, Ben, Alex, and Wesso for being speakers here. And thank you everyone for joining again. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.